Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Hey, welcome back to the History AI podcast. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco, and before we kick off, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. It helps new listeners find us and keeps the episodes coming.
You know, this one's extra special for me. I've been a Manchester United fan since the 90s. Back when European soccer highlights were like buried treasure on TV.
Yep, we had to work hard just to catch a glimpse of Fergie's fledglings on the pitch.
And now we have seen them live several times, and we even went to Houston with our cousin Philip to watch United play Real Madrid. Crazy how far things have come.
That match was insane. Seeing two football giants in Texas was just unreal.
So today, we're diving into the club that made all of this possible. From a railway yard to global superstardom, it's the story of Manchester United.
Tragedy, triumph, legends, and legacy. This one has it all. Let's kick it off.
Alright, to understand the legend of Manchester United, you have to go all the way back to the industrial heartbeat of 19th century England.
That's right, we're talking Manchester, 1878. A gritty, booming city, powered by coal, cotton, and the clanging of railway tracks. And right there in the middle of it all was the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Company.
This company wasn't just transporting goods and people, it was also trying to keep its workers healthy and occupied. So a group of railway employees from the carriage and wagon department at the Newton Heath depot decided to form a football team.
And thus, Newton Heath LYR Football Club was born. LYR stood for, you guessed it, Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway. This was no glamorous start. Their kits were green and gold, their pitch was a literal railway yard, and players often had to take on double shifts just to show up for weekend matches.
The club initially played against other rail company teams, but soon joined organized competitions. By the 1880s, they were playing in the Football Alliance, a kind of proto-league for up-and-coming clubs.
But things weren't easy. They struggled financially, partly because they weren't officially backed by the railway company anymore. By the 1890s, Newton Heath joined the Football League, but success was elusive.
And let's not sugarcoat it, they were in trouble. In 1902, the club was over £2,500 in debt, which was a massive sum back then. They were on the brink of being shut down entirely.
Enter the hero of the hour, John Henry Davies, a wealthy local brewery owner. The story goes that club captain Harry Stafford was trying to raise money using a St. Bernard dog, and Davies, intrigued by the dog and the cause, decided to invest.
Davies paid off the debts and took over. But this wasn't just a financial rescue, it was a rebirth. The name was changed to Manchester United, signaling a new identity, one that wasn't just tied to a railway yard but to the whole city.
They also changed the club colours from green and gold to the now iconic red, white, and black. New kits, a new crest, and a new attitude. This was a club ready to evolve.
And evolve they did. Within 6 years of the rebranding, United won their first league title in 1908 under manager Ernest Mangnall, followed by the FA Cup in 1909. Suddenly, they weren't just surviving, they were thriving.
It's kind of wild to think about. If that dog hadn't walked into John Henry Davies' life, or if Stafford hadn't been so determined, we might not have Manchester United at all.
From a struggling works team to a newly christened city club, this was the moment the spark caught fire. The Red Devils were still decades away from global dominance, but the foundation had been laid.
And that's what makes this origin story so compelling. It's not just about trophies, it's about resilience, reinvention, and the right people showing up at the right time. So we've talked about the early days of the club, but to really understand Manchester United's character, you have to see how they endured through 2 world wars.
Let's start with World War I. Football across England came to a near standstill. The Football League was suspended in 1915, and many players enlisted. Manchester United, like every other club, saw its squad decimated, not by transfers, but by war.
The club struggled financially and competitively. Several of their players were killed or injured in combat, and when league play resumed in 1919, they were starting from behind.
But it's what happened during and after World War II that really shaped the United we know today, especially their home ground, Old Trafford.
Old Trafford first opened in 1910, designed by famed architect Archibald Leach. It was massive by early 20th century standards, 80,000 capacity, elegant ironwork, and considered a palace of football.
But that palace wouldn't stay untouched. On March 11, 1941, during the height of the Blitz, Old Trafford was bombed by the German Luftwaffe. The main stand was obliterated. The pitch was cratered. It was unplayable.
United suddenly found themselves without a home. So what did they do? They crossed town and, brace yourselves, shared a stadium with their arch-rivals, Manchester City.
Main Road became United's temporary home from 1946 to 1949, while Old Trafford was painstakingly rebuilt with government funds.
It's one of the most humbling chapters in the club's history. They were literally playing in someone else's house while trying to rebuild both their team and their stadium, in a country still rationing food and fuel.
Old Trafford reopened in August 1949, modernized and expanded. From then on, it became the heart of United, not just a stadium, but a symbol of survival and ambition. That's why they call it the Theatre of Dreams. It's not just a catchy nickname, it's a place built on hope, ruin, and the determination to keep going.
So when you sit in those seats or see those floodlights on TV, remember, this isn't just a venue. It's part of the club's soul.
With Old Trafford back in action and the country recovering from war, Manchester United made a bold move in 1945. They hired a man who would define the club for decades to come, Matt Busby.
And what a hire it was. Busby was a former Manchester City and Liverpool player, a war veteran, and a tactical visionary. But most of all, he believed in youth.
At a time when most clubs were buying established stars, Busby thought, why not build our own? He brought in a young scout named Joe Armstrong, and together they began assembling a youth program unlike anything English football had seen.
The results were magical. By the early 1950s, Busby had built a squad of astonishingly young, fearless, and talented players. They were nicknamed the Busby Babes, and not just by fans, this was a media phenomenon.
We're talking players like Duncan Edwards, who many still say could have been the greatest English footballer of all time. And others like Roger Byrne, Tommy Taylor, Eddie Coleman, and David Pegg, all under 25, many straight from United's youth ranks.
In 1956, they won the First Division with an average age of just 22. That's unheard of. And they weren't just winning, they were dazzling. Fast, flowing, attacking football. People packed into Old Trafford to watch this new generation light it up.
But Busby had bigger ambitions. He wanted United to conquer Europe, even though the Football League was skeptical. Some even discouraged clubs from entering the European Cup.
Busby insisted. United became the first English club to compete in the European Cup in 1956, and by the 1957-58 season, they were legitimate contenders. They'd just beaten Red Star Belgrade to reach the semi-finals.
Then came February 6, 1958. The team was returning from Yugoslavia with a stop in Munich to refuel. It was snowing. The runway was icy. After 2 failed takeoff attempts, the plane tried once more.
It didn't make it.
The plane crashed at the end of the runway. 23 people died, including 8 Manchester United players. Duncan Edwards would fight for his life in the hospital for 15 days before passing away.
It was one of the darkest days in football history. The footballing world mourned, and for Manchester United, it was a tragedy that shook the club to its core.
Busby was severely injured and given the last rites twice. He survived. And while grieving the loss of his team, he began, slowly, painfully, to rebuild.
Incredibly, United still managed to field a team just 13 days later for an FA Cup match against Sheffield Wednesday. Assistant manager Jimmy Murphy, who'd missed the crash because he was coaching Wales, scrambled to assemble a squad with reserves and loaned players.
They made it all the way to the FA Cup final that year. They lost, but their courage inspired the nation. This wasn't about winning, it was about enduring.
Busby returned the next season. Over the next decade, he rebuilt the club again, this time around a new set of stars, including a young Bobby Charlton, one of the Munich survivors.
The crash didn't just shape the club, it defined it. The spirit of the Babes, the heartbreak of Munich, and the resilience of Busby are etched into United's DNA.
It's a reminder that Manchester United's greatness wasn't born from trophies alone, it came through unimaginable loss and a determination to honour those lost by rebuilding better than ever. By the early 1960s, Matt Busby had done the unthinkable. He'd rebuilt Manchester United from the ruins of Munich. Slowly, methodically, and emotionally.
At the heart of this second great team were players who symbolized both continuity and rebirth. Bobby Charlton, who had survived the crash, became the emotional core of the squad. Alongside him came two new icons, Dennis Law, the Scottish goal machine, and George Best, the Belfast boy wonder.
Let's talk about George Best for a second. Imagine Cristiano Ronaldo's flair mixed with Beckham's looks and Messi's dribbling, then throw in a rockstar lifestyle and tabloid chaos. That was George.
In 1968, 10 years after Munich, Busby's rebuilt team finally achieved the dream he had risked everything for: European glory.
On May 29, 1968, at Wembley Stadium, United faced the mighty Benfica from Portugal in the European Cup final. The game was tense. After 90 minutes, it was 1-1. Extra time began, and United exploded.
They scored 3 goals in extra time: George Best, Brian Kidd, and Bobby Charlton again. Final score, 4-1. Manchester United became the first English club to win the European Cup.
It was more than a victory. It was redemption. Matt Busby, who had nearly died a decade earlier, had taken the club to the summit of Europe.
And fittingly, Charlton lifted the trophy, the survivor who had become a champion.
But glory is rarely permanent. Busby retired in 1969, and the next couple decades were turbulent. United cycled through managers, flirted with relegation, and even dropped to the second division in 1974.
Yes, Manchester United was relegated. But they bounced back within a season. Still, success was limited. The FA Cup in 1977 under Tommy Docherty, and a few moments here and there, but the league title was elusive.
Enter Alex Ferguson, a fiery Scotsman from Aberdeen, hired in November 1986. And let's be honest, things didn't click right away.
No, for the first few years, it was rough. United were hovering mid-table. Rumors were swirling in the press. There's a famous moment in 1989, he was one game away from being sacked.
That game was an FA Cup third-round tie against Nottingham Forest. United won it. Barely. They went on to win the whole tournament that year, and that saved his job.
And thank God it did. Because what came next was nothing short of historic.
Ferguson built his empire around discipline, scouting, and youth. In the early 90s, he delivered United's first league title in 26 years, right after the top flight rebranded as the Premier League.
From there, it was pure dominance. Players like Eric Cantona, Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs, and Peter Schmeichel became the faces of a ruthless, title-hungry squad.
Then came the class of '92, United's homegrown golden generation: David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, and the Neville brothers. Along with Giggs, they defined a decade.
1999 was the high point. The treble, Premier League, FA Cup, and Champions League. No English club had ever done it.
That Champions League final was a pure movie script. Down 1-0 to Bayern Munich until the dying seconds. Then, Teddy Sheringham, followed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. 2 goals in stoppage time. 2-1 final score. Pandemonium.
Ferguson stayed at the helm until 2013. In that time, he won 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, 2 Champions Leagues, and dozens of other honors. He turned Manchester United into a dynasty.
He didn't just win trophies, he shaped the culture, the expectations, the global reach. Under Sir Alex, United became a brand, a sporting powerhouse with fans on every continent.
When he retired, he left behind not just a winning team, but a legacy. One that still looms large over everything Manchester United does to this day.
As we close this episode, we find ourselves in a curious place, not at the end of Manchester United's story, but somewhere in the middle of its next great turning point.
In 2013, when Sir Alex Ferguson announced his retirement after 26 glorious years, it wasn't just the end of an era, it felt like the end of an age. United had just won their 20th league title. They were English football's undisputed giants.
But what came next was uncertainty. The transition wasn't smooth. David Moyes, handpicked by Ferguson, lasted less than a season. The aura of invincibility? It started to fade.
Then came Louis van Gaal, with his philosophy, structure, and a memorable FA Cup win in 2016, but never quite the magic. Jose Mourinho followed, bringing swagger, silverware, the League Cup and Europa League in 2017, and division in equal measure.
After Mourinho came Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the baby-faced assassin turned caretaker and then permanent manager. For a time, he brought hope. There were big wins, Champions League nights, even a second-place league finish. But still, no trophies. No identity that truly lasted. Next came Ten Hag, then Amorim. Some silverware followed, but the league standings continued to slip.
And while managers came and went, other challenges mounted, a revolving door of high-priced signings who didn't quite fit, internal turmoil, front office disarray, and growing unrest over the Glazer ownership.
Let's not forget the emotional return of Cristiano Ronaldo in 2021. It was a nostalgic high, but again, short-lived. The team still lacked consistency, and the club still seemed caught between eras. But the truth is, United haven't truly reclaimed their identity yet. They're still searching. Still building. Still navigating what it means to be Manchester United without Sir Alex.
And that's why we're stopping here, for now. Because the post-2013 years deserve an episode of their own, maybe even two. There's so much still unfolding. And who knows? The next great chapter may already be taking shape.
So, for all the fans who stuck through the lean years, the chaotic transfer windows, and the emotional roller coasters, your patience, your loyalty is what keeps the club alive.
This isn't just a football club. It's a story of perseverance, reinvention, and legacy. And that story? It's still being written, and that wraps up this episode of the History AI podcast. From the railway yards of Newton Heath to the glory nights of Barcelona and Wembley, Manchester United's story is one of grit, glory, and greatness.
We hope you enjoyed this dive into a club that means so much to so many, especially to Chuck, who's been a fan since the days when catching a United game on TV was a rare event.
Exactly.
If this episode brought back memories or gave you new insight, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review, hit that subscribe button, and share this episode with any Manchester United fans you know. Trust us, they'll appreciate the nostalgia.
And if you've got an idea for a future episode, whether it's another club, a historic match, or a footballing legend, reach out to us on social media. We love hearing from you.
Also, don't forget to check out our brand new History AI podcast merch. There's a link in the show notes. Rep your love of history and football.
Remember, every episode of this podcast is evergreen, so you can revisit the stories anytime. And trust us, this story? It's far from over.
Thanks for listening, and as always, stay curious.
Newton Heath, they laced their boots, a railway team of might. In 1878 they stood in green and gold so bright. But hard times came and nearly broke the dream before it flew, till 4 good men with iron will turned red from green and blue. We are red, we are proud, we are Manchester born. From the ashes of the past, a dynasty was sworn. Through glory and through tragedy, we'll never walk away. We are red through the ages, and united we'll stay. Then came Sir Matt, a visionary, and babes who'd light the flame. A youthful side that danced with pride and shook the world with fame. But on a runway far from home, the cruelest fate was cast. The angels rose, but in their name the spirit held steadfast. We are red, we are proud, we are Manchester born. From the ashes of the past, a dynasty was sworn. Through glory and through tragedy, we'll never walk away. We are red through the ages, and united we'll stay. '68, we conquered Europe, Best Charlton, Stepney too. 10 years from heartbreak lifting high the dream they once pursued. Then Ferguson, the fearless Scot, brought glory year by year. From Cantona to Rooney's fire, the world would stand and cheer. From treble nights to Fergie's bowl, the torch was passed again. Through highs and lows, the faithful know our love will never wane. For legends come and legends go, but one truth holds its weight. It's not just in our trophies, it's the heart that makes us great. We are red, we are proud, we are Manchester born. From the ashes of the past, a dynasty was sworn. Through glory and through tragedy, we'll never walk away. We are red through the ages, and united we'll stay. Glory, glory, Man United, raise your voice and sing it loud. From the Stretford end to every land, we wear that red with pride so proud.